Thanks for clicking on Wayne.com for the Week 12 edition of Inside the Zone. Hard to believe we're already at sectional championship games. And normally I feel like we have like 8 or 9 local sectional championship games, but the way it plays out this year, just 6. We're going to talk about all of them, and we're going to start in 6A with what is a rematch in the SAC. You're talking about the Snider Panthers traveling to face the Homestead Spartans. I believe it was 23-7. Yeah, Snider back in Week 5. Both teams are different since then, especially Snider, who's really starting to play their best football at the right time of the season, if you're Kurt Tittman.
I really like this matchup because not only is Snider better than Week 5, I think Homestead is better than Week 5, and you look at the matchups on both sides of the football. You look at Homestead's offense. John Barnes is finally, I feel, can run every play in the playbook and what Kurt Tittman wants him to do, and there's no kind of holding things back based on John Barnes' development. I think he's where they want him to be. He can make all the plays. And I think Homestead's defense, we saw them last week hold Northrop to 7 points, which broke, I want to say, like a 26-game streak or something like that. In which
it was
Northrop
like a season and a half.
Yeah,
more than that, I think.
Yeah, it was a couple seasons where Northrop had scored at least 10 points in a game. So I think this is a huge matchup. Snider offense, Homestead defense. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, I think the Homestead defense is underrated, but on the flip side, you mentioned the quarterbacks. I don't know that there's been a player this season that has matured more and improved more from Week 1, Week 2, Week 3 to this point in the season than John Barnes Jr. He's just done a fantastic job. They kind of sorted out the quarterback position with Deuce Taylor no longer there, and Barnes has kind of hit the ground running. He knows he's not going to be taken out. He knows he's the guy. He's got that confidence, and he's just improved week in and week out. 4 touchdown passes to the tight ends last week. Braxton Mantle and Simon Dellinger doing it. You don't see a lot of touchdown passes to the tight ends in high school, but I got to give Barnes a lot of credit.
Yeah, over 230 passing yards, I think, on just 9 completions. He was like 9 of 13 last week. And we saw in Week 2 that loss to Carroll and how Snider just could do nothing in the vertical passing game whatsoever. Some of that was because of the pressure that John Barnes was under, but also some of that was John Barnes still growing into the quarterback position and not having confidence in being able to throw downfield, and Snider not having confidence in him to throw downfield. Vastly different from just 2 months ago, and you have to feel really good if you're a Snider fan because that defense was carrying them for the first half of the year. Now I feel that Snider offense can make plays when it needs to.
And the weather has been nasty here in the postseason, and you take a look at that Snider offensive line. You got old 6'7", 330-pound Randy Holtz right there. You got Simon Dellinger at 6'5", about 280, looks small compared to him. You got Will Swartz. I mean, that's kind of the offensive line / tight end. That's a pretty meaty group of guys to try and move and that can kind of level the defensive line if you're a Snider Panther.
And guys that are able to get a consistent push now as compared to the first half of the year. They get good leverage. They've been coached up. They've improved. And that's just what good teams do. So many people were ready to write Snider off after that Carroll game. And even after the Wayne game, and still, Snider is not the dominant Snider that we see most seasons. Yes, but it is a very, very good football team, but they'll face a good challenge on Friday.
Yeah, on the flip side, Homestead, I think at the beginning of the year you thought, man, they couldn't run 2 quarterbacks forever.
Right.
But there's Luke Goody.
Here they are.
Yeah, here's like 6'5" Luke Goody, who is kind of the passing, prototypical drop-back, big-type quarterback who's got a basketball offer from the University of Iowa now. So pretty good athlete there as a sophomore. And Jake Archbold, is a little bit more of the running-type quarterback. And yet, you know what those quarterbacks are going to do, yet they have succeeded when they've been in there, even though you know which guy does have a specific skill set. So how has Homestead been able to kind of make it all work, I guess is my question.
You bring up a great point because when we started the year and they said Homestead's going with 2 quarterbacks, everybody was like, okay, eventually they're going to settle on somebody. And here we are Week 12 and they're still going. They've made it work. Everybody says you need one voice in that huddle and you need one, the team looked to one guy, yet they've made it work throughout the year with 2 guys. And then you look at a running game and Braden Hardwick, just a sophomore that continues to get better and better. And we look at Homestead teams of years past and go, man, if they only had a running game, right? I mean, the passing game's always there, but that running game was always missing. Now Hardwick can carve up yards on the ground for this team. So it opens up opportunities for Trevin Taylor and Griffin Little and these guys on the perimeter. So very balanced Homestead offense, especially when you have a running quarterback in there with Jake Archbold. And Luke Goody, we've seen him escape pressure and gain some yards and a couple touchdowns on the ground too. Very versatile offense for Homestead.
And like Snider, offensive line-wise, when you have Porter Haught, who's going to be playing Division I football at this point next year, that's not a bad guy to start with when you're talking about an offensive line.